Hey, I'm Kristin Anderson. I'm the Ashland branch manager. My pronouns are she, her, hers. This is my COVID hair. And I am going to talk to you about some of the books that we published in our Friday Reads posts this past month. And I've got a handful of those to talk about, and I'm probably going to throw in a couple of other books as well. So I'm going to talk two together. The first two are The World Doesn't Require You by Rion Scott, and the other one is Friday Black by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. And those two are books of short stories, and they both happen to be by African American male authors, and they're both wonderful. I like Friday Black in particular, and the reason I have such big love for Friday Black is that the first short story, which is called The Finkelstein Five, is one of those short stories that when you read it, it kind of you've got a strong visceral impact to it, which I think is something that can happen with short stories in a way that doesn't always happen in the novel form. I also happen to be a fan of George Saunders, and Nana Kwame is a protege of George Saunders. So when I was thinking about those two books, I also wanted to bring a couple of other books of short stories by African American authors, because you're going to be getting this in late January, and we're about to head into African American History Month. So I thought for my next video, it'll be the end of African American History Month, so I decided to front load it. We also have a blog post coming encouraging people to read books by authors of color, so I thought that giving you some ideas for books that might fit would be a good idea. So the other two I want to talk about are The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Deesha Philyaw. That is a newer book that does have a longer wait list, but it's wonderful. It's kind of it's a book of short stories, like I said, but it's about it's more about women's relationships with themselves and each other's. In this case, specifically, women of color, and it's very centered on those lives, and everything else is kind of on the periphery, and it doesn't feel like a book with a trauma narrative. It feels like life stories, and I found it very readable, and I loved it. And there's another collection of short stories by an African American author that I thought was worth mentioning called Lot. His stories are all set in Houston, and he has a novel that's been popular this year. It's his first novel called Memorial. So those were the ones I wanted to talk about around our short story collections that we posted. And again, when we post these books on Fridays, they're typically books that we've had and have been popular, but are past the point where they're out on hold. So these are often books that you can get right away. So the books that I add on sometimes aren't that and might have a little bit of a wait. Another one of the books that we posted for Friday Reads was City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. If the name Elizabeth Gilbert sounds familiar, it's because she's more known for her nonfiction. For example, she wrote the book Eat, Pray, Love, but City of Girls is a story that is set in so it's historic. It's set in 1940s New York. It's in a theater setting, and it features main characters who don't necessarily feel like they want to fit into the typical model of what was expected for them of their behavior at that time, particularly when it comes to love, but when it comes to lots of things. And it made me think of another book that's more like it than Elizabeth Gilbert's nonfiction, which is a fairly recent book called The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is about a movie star looking back at her life. She was a movie star in the 50s. The main part of the main action of the story is in the 50s, but there's a flashback from her as an older woman talking about her life and who her true love was in all of these 7 husbands. If it makes you think about Elizabeth Taylor, I think that was probably intentional. But the mystery of who her real true love is the center of that story, and those are both worth checking out. And then one of the other books that we posted was called, gosh, my mask is, let me just adjust my mask. Okay, so another one of the books that we posted is one that's kind of delightful and quirky, and it's called Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. The premise is going to sound weird. It is about a young woman who gets a job looking after these 2 children. The 2 children happen to have this condition where when they get a little bit agitated, they burst into flames. This bursting into flames doesn't harm them. But it's obviously inconvenient for the people around them, and their family doesn't really know what to do with them. And this nanny character develops a caring relationship with them, where she is able to center and think about, what they actually need. And it's not about kids who burst into flames. It's really about the relationship between the nanny and the kids who burst into flames, and it's lots of fun. The last one we posted was called The Bookish Life of Nina Hill, and that's by Abbi Waxman. And that book is kind of I think it's kind of a 20-something kind of bookish, nerdy girl romance. And she is, she works in a bookstore. It's set in LA. She likes, playing trivia with her friends. She's kind of set in her ways, and she knows what she likes, and that's the life she wants. And then, a situation happens and her life's less consistent, and there's romance and there's lost family associated. Abbi Waxman has a really nice touch with comedy, but what I've discovered about her since approaching her through The Bookish Life of Nina Hill is that more of her books are more in the middle-aged suburban mom kind of category that feels a little bit like, like a Leanne Moriarty or something like that. So her recent book is called I Was Told It Would Get Easier, and that's actually a relationship between a mother, like a professional working mother, and her daughter, who's getting ready to go to college, and their college tour. So she definitely writes an array of books about different things. But a book that is really more like the Nina Hill book might be a book called Beach Read by Emily Henry. And I think they're going to put up the covers so you'll be able to see them. You probably won't see them together, but you will probably be able to notice that they have the exact same color scheme on their covers if you put them right next to each other, which I think is fascinating and pretty telling about the fact that they're probably going to appeal to a similar audience, because book marketing is a fascinating kind of, armchair sport for me, where I'm like, I wonder what they were thinking when they made that decision. So Beach Read is a romance set lakeside in a small town, and the 2 romantic leads, he writes like high literary fiction and is kind of snooty, and she's more of a chick lit / romance writer, and this is one of those hate at first sight and then gradually fall in love kind of plot lines, and it definitely kind of it's very clear that the author knows what she's doing in terms of playing into some of the tropes of those 2 kind of often oppositional kind of styles of writing, and ways of that the authors of those styles of writing are treated and perceived. So those were our Friday reads for this month, and I hope that you come back and check out our Friday reads books. I hope you check out our blog. If you're looking for materials that, like if you're missing browsing our shelves, use our JCLS Discovery Service. You can fill out a form and some of our librarians will pick out books for you. So you'll have a little teeny tiny shelf of your own to browse and decide if you want those books, and we can get those for you quickly. Have a lovely month, and I'll see you in February.